chase them all away. Little children in the street, dying every day. We all look for something we can never find. And we all need peace of mind. Lonely wretch on the street, looking for love. $20 beneath the sheets. Is this all she thinks of? We all look for someone.
Three, two, one, go.
Exciting news going on for people. Something that happened up at their high school. I'm going to let you take the lead on that.
Well, there are things that happen in life that can bring so much joy to people. And, last week, David Lancier. Now, I know you know David, but he's been like my brother from another mother since high school. And he is just the most wonderful, kind, unless you piss him off, human being that you'd ever meet in your life. And he has been, since high school, the voice of sports in our city. He started out down at the Cohoes Babe Ruth.
Yeah,
Okay.
he did. Yep.
My father was down at the Babe Ruth. I said to my father, why don't you let David announce the games? He knows more about baseball than anybody will ever meet. And so somehow, I can't remember all the particulars, but we got David down at the intermediate field. And next thing you know, 35 years later, he's the head of every sporting event in the city, from all of the high school, all of the little league, all of the, Babe Ruth ain't there no more, but there's like this travel league. The man is everywhere, and he gives his life to this community. He's so much more than just the voice of Cohoes, right? He is the brother of Cohoes. He is the guy
like
that
the Howard Cosell of Cohoes, something like that.
Yeah, well, he's the guy that everybody just loves.
Yeah,
and
he cares what he's doing.
He just loves sports. He loves Cohoes.
Yeah.
He loves to be loved by people, and the man is a brilliant guy when it comes to this sport. He's brilliant about everything. But when it comes to sports, I don't know if there's anybody more brilliant than him. He knows.
And he pours his heart into everything he does. It's just a great thing happened for him.
Yeah, so let me just tell you what happened. So David Lancier is now a member of the Cohoes High Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he was.
I mean, how many people get to say that?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm certainly not no member of the Hall of Fame. Are you?
No, not really.
Well, you maybe of your own Hall of Fame, but I mean, Cohoes High Hall of Fame, it's not something that you can just take lightly. You have to have done something that really draws the attention to our school and to the person who's doing it.
Because he was enshrined, with this great recognition, and it will stay in the halls of that high school forever. As long as they have a high school, they put it in a case. It's there for it'll stay there for decades and decades. So long as we have in high school, he has a place. So
I just wanted to give a huge shout out to my friend, my brother, a man that I deeply love. To just say congratulations, David. You made a lot of people smile on this day. You brighten up people's darkest days every day. You're a super cool dude, and I love you. And congratulations to being the newest member of the Hall of Fame for the Cohoes High.
It's a great thing for him. He well deserved, and
he certainly.
Just a well deserved thing to do. Okay, it's nice to see him take a placeholder, somewhere in one of those shelf cases in CHS.
Well, Timmy, we're always trying to find the best stories at Cajo's, and we always end up with the worst because, unfortunately, the last couple of years, the worst have risen to the top, and most of the great stories are far and few in between. But this is a great story.
Yeah.
This is a great human being. Every single person who was responsible for this happening, you made the best decision of your life. And we couldn't be prouder to call you our friend, David. We couldn't be prouder to call you the voice of Cajo's and the brother to all. We love you, and keep doing what you do. Keep bringing joy to people's life. Hey, Timmy, it's not too often that we get into the conversation about the president, but we're getting down to the nitty gritty, right? And let me just pull something up on my phone because I gotta find this because
and while you're really. Right. And while you're doing that, Sean, I wanted to tell you that Joanna Doggett said David is an institution in and of himself. And she said it best.
Yeah, she's absolutely right. He certainly is. And I'm proud to have known him my whole life. And boy, we've been through some stuff in high school, that's for sure.
Yeah. So, we got Ted Stur on, we got Joanna on, and others come on the podcast. The comments are working. If we can get to them, we'll get to them.
I wanted to just talk about something. I thought I could find it here. But listen, when I was a kid, politics has become really a gross display of ignorance and self-serving on every level. And it's been like that for some time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the days where a average man could run the farmer, the person who just had a common job, the day of those people ever running for president is over, right? We're talking about billions of freaking dollars, billions, to run for president. They're spending so much money on campaign TV ads. They could feed the hungry people. They could fund Social Security for the next 50
hundreds
years.
of millions of dollars just for a Senate race in Texas. I mean, it's crazy.
It's just crazy. But we have become a political system where dividing people and keeping them down is the number one goal. And then during the campaign, trying to figure out how to raise them up and say, I'm going to do all this stuff and I'm going to make your life better. Most of it's all bullshit. And anybody with any brains, whether it's Trump, Kamala, Obama, we all know for the most part, these people are just going to go in, become the most powerful person in the world and walk out with billions of dollars or at least hundreds of millions like Obama, right?
A guy that went empty-handed and you come out.
Yeah, the guy was making $45,000, $50,000 a year in his community. He ends up having $180 million after he leaves the presidency. That's just bullshit. But that's what this business is about. It's become a business about wealth.
Yeah, and Congress is no exception.
Well, they're all the same. Yeah. Anybody who's got as much power over our lives, it's all the same. Hello, Pammy. Good to see you. I think Pammy would agree. The people that live the everyday life, we're just scraps to these people, right? They want to hold this office for their own personal selfish gains. But I never in my life witnessed what I think I'm witnessing now, which is right in front of the camera, blatantly right in front of your face. A presidential candidate is trying to offer these benefits to just black men. And she has no bone about saying, this is my plan. First of all, let's remember, every bone that's paid for is paid for by people like you and I and people watching this show, right? This isn't a bunch of rich people. This is just the everyday people and the people trying to just get by. But I want you to listen to this video because I am disturbed. I'm disturbed, that you would try to come up with some kind of plan that certainly it's against the law, number one. Number two, it divides people based on their skin color. Like I'm going to be the president and I'm going to do this for just white people. Can you imagine if somebody said that?
Can you imagine? Bribe, basically, it's a bribe.
Yes, and in this case, it's reparations being paid for without saying it's reparations. Because let me play the video and then we'll talk about it.
Sure. About your plan for black men. Yes. It's something huge.
Now you heard that. Your plan just for black men.
Right.
Yes.
that you have just released this
Yes.
week. We're talking about 1 million loans that are fully forgivable up to $20,000
Right.
to Black
So there's $1 million
entrepreneurs, men
of
and
money.
women,
Yes.
correct?
Set aside
Yep.
for just black men. Doesn't say black women, just says black men.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't have to be paid back.
Right.
Now, does that sound
$20,
like
yeah.
a business loan or reparations?
It's a grant. It's an outright.
It's buying votes, Timmy.
Right. It is. It's insane. And they would sit there and say something like this, and they don't get called out for it.
They
by
don't.
the
Nobody
media.
even cares. Nobody's
Yeah.
even saying a word. This
But
woman is standing on the stage telling people that she's going to give every black small business. First of all, I don't even know what that means, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's going to open up a business just to get the 20 grand.
Mhm.
Then
Yeah.
the 20 grand is going to be spent on what? The business isn't going to succeed because there's not everybody is prepared to run a business,
And what
right?
can you do with 20 grand anyway?
You can't
to get
do
a
shit
business
with
going?
20 grand other than put it in your pocket and
Hardly even
use it for
open
what
up
you
a-
want
a
to.
mom and pop store, yeah.
Let me just tell you, I think it's the biggest insult to the black population to think
is.
that you have to somehow come up with some way to look like you're paying them to vote for you.
Yeah.
Black people are no different than white people.
They're
They are
smart
just as
people.
smart.
Yep.
They understand politics.
Mm-hmm.
They know what the hell they want and what's best for their family. And they don't want to be,
Yeah.
thrown this bone like somehow they're not capable of making things on their own.
Like they're stupid. Yeah. Here
Like they're
you go.
dumb.
Here's
Like
20
somehow
grand,
that-
vote for me.
Yeah, somehow, somehow the black man is not smart as the white man. Well, I'm going to tell you something. Some of my black friends are a lot smarter than I am. And they've got a lot farther in life than I have.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't because somebody said, "Oh, you're black, and here's
Yeah.
20 grand."
Yeah.
It's because they went to school, they worked real hard, they got out of college. Some of them got out of high school. They went in the trades. So when I was in politics, some of the
Yeah.
best and brightest people were judges, black, county legislators, black, New York State
Yeah.
legislatures, black. These are not people that need your handout.
Yeah.
And it's a disgrace that you would somehow make them feel like, okay, if you vote for me, you can get 20,000 and I have to pay it back. But
Yeah.
let me
It's
just continue.
crazy.
To Black entrepreneurs, men and women,
Yes.
correct?
Well, now she says men and women.
Expanding access to bank accounts, expanding the child tax credit, many things that you're
Housing.
doing.
Don't forget
Housing,
my housing.
lowering rent, making it affordable to buy a house.
Now let's talk about something, right? I'm going to talk. I got to get Danny Shepard and my friend. Well, Danny's in the real estate, right? Just so
Yeah.
you know, and he's a sponsor of our show. And I got to get him on here because we want to talk about real estate with him. But I want to talk to him about this stuff. And Jimmy Lyman, another amazing realtor. These guys are in the top 5% in the capital region. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I want to hear what they say. If I said to you, I'm going to sell houses, and there's houses being sold all over the country, right? And the government's going to give you $25,000 for a down payment on the house that you don't have to pay back, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And somehow that's going to make the housing market boom. Well, let me just tell you something. It ain't going to make it boom, and it ain't going to make it more affordable, okay? Because here's what I'm going to do. I got my house, and I want to say I want $300,000 for my house. And then I find out the government says, hey, we'll give everybody $25,000 for down payment. Well, my house just went up to $325,000, my friend. Okay. Because if you're going to give somebody money to pay for a down payment, I'm raising the price of my house. And therefore the market is not going to shrink in way of cost. It's going to expand in the way of cost because anybody who sells a house is going to sell it for more money. Realtors ain't stupid. They want your house to be more money, don't they? Because they make a bigger profit.
Hey, I can use 25 grand to pay towards the principal of my mortgage.
And banks ain't gonna, banks don't care if it costs more, as long as you can
What's wrong
afford to
with
make
me?
the payment.
Why can't I get the same money?
Well, under her plan, you can't because this is a
because
plan for black people.
I'm not the
and
right
it's a
color.
slap in the face to black people.
Yeah.
And
It is a slap in the face of blacks.
It does. And listen, look it. I have never been in a political season. And my little buddy Lenny from Olmsted Street, been my friend for a long time.
Yeah.
He constantly says it's about rich elite, and to the point, a lot of it is, right? We just talked about you can't even run for office unless you have a couple $1 billion. And
Well, yeah,
Big
national
Ted's
office.
out there,
Yeah.
and he's got good opinions too. The reality is, when government starts to divide people based on their skin color, when government starts to divide people based on their skin color by handing out money to one group over the other. And I will tell you that Al Albin's right. You can't fix stupid, but I'm going to tell you something. You can't even do that. That's illegal. You can't discriminate based on color of how much the federal government is going to hand out. It's my freaking money.
Now, what I believe, and I'm not sure which campaign did this, but they gave out cell phones, okay, to low income people couldn't afford cell phones.
Listen,
They were giving them out by the tens of
when I
thousands
was
of
in
cell phones during an election year.
Yeah, but when I was in the county legislature, which is the government that, well, first and foremost, it's the most overpriced, unnecessary layer of government in the freaking world, right? And I know because I was there, I was the chairman. There's a lot of good stuff you can do, but it becomes a bunch of morons who think they're really important, and they start doing things like you can't drink out of a paper straw. Okay.
Right.
You can't eat a cupcake. Shit. That's just, get out of the way. Get the hell. Slap him in the head and get him out of the way.
Yeah.
I'm
They
gonna eat
move
the
you from
cupcake.
paper bags to plastic bags. And now plastic bags are no good. You got to go back to paper.
Yeah, that's
we
the
got rid of
government, right? That's the
to
middle,
save the trees. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the middle level of government that doesn't
Yeah.
need to
It's
be here.
insane.
But when I was in that government, I realized something, and I realized it very quickly. And this, first of all, I come from a family from the projects, right?
Yeah.
I come from a family of a beautiful little mother, Loretta, 4 foot tall, who could knock the shit out of you if you gave her back talk, who got up every morning in the projects and went outside and swept the sidewalk in front of her house. Because no matter how much money we had or didn't have, she had pride, right? So I understand the struggles that people face. But I also quickly realized that the people who pay the freight are the middle class. And every dollar that we take to help the poor, the middle class person is paying that. And we are now at a time where the middle class is about to collapse. There's only going to be the hierarchy and the lowest archy, right?
So,
the top
so
and
Sean,
the bottom.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I got to interrupt you real quick because I'm getting a warning light. Somehow I got a low battery issue. So let me check that and I'll be right back. Keep going.
Okay. Well, anyway, Timmy, see you later. When you get a chance, come on back. But let me just keep going. So I realized when I was in the legislature that the bottom line is the middle class pays for everything. So the poorest people really don't struggle as bad as the middle class when it comes to paying your rent, because there's all kinds of programs that pay their rent. Food stamps help feed them. And are you back, Timmy?
Yeah.
All right. What happened to you?
I don't know. I just checked the connection. It just wasn't making a good connection.
All right. I brought you back. Hang on. I got to slide you back into the show here.
All righty.
So what I was saying is that the poorest people, while they may struggle with, the luxury of things. And when I say middle class luxury, I'm talking about, maybe you get to go on vacation. Maybe you get a little bit, you can buy a Nike shoe or you can do something.
Yeah.
But you're certainly not rich, right?
Right.
And the poor people, however, when they have government assistance, pays their rent, right? Pays their food, helps them with the necessities, the basic necessities. It appears to me that in the legislature, I learned that the middle class is the one who's really going to struggle the most because there is no help. I've talked to people. Yeah. I talked to people and would say, you're $6 over the limit to get food stamps and you make $30,000 a year, right? The system is screwed up.
Yeah.
And then here comes the president to be or president to want to be. We don't know yet which she'll be. And she's saying, hey, as long as you're black, you can get 20 grand.
Here's 20 grand.
And you don't have to pay it back. And we're going to give you money for housing. And we're going to do this. And we're going to do that. All with whose money? not the
And-
poorest people,
And what are you
not the
supposed to do
richest
for the
people.
20 grand? You just got to cast a vote for her, put her in
That's what
office. It's
there
crazy.
you go. There you go. This is a bought and sold for disgrace. This woman is a
Yeah.
disgrace for what she's trying to do. Nobody should ever be divided by race. Nobody running for president should try to divide us by race using money to bait people in. And she's not the only one. This one here, I think, and I think this one takes the cake. Let me jump over to this screen, Tim.
Yep.
I want you to listen to this, because
Yeah.
if this isn't the most disgusting display of a man who's used the system to get rich, who did absolutely nothing to help the black population when he was president, okay? And now he's going to take the time to go out and visit black kids, young men, and
Yeah.
he's going to chastise them because they won't vote based on the color of someone's skin?
Yeah. I mean, he's
gotta
lost
hear
his
this.
mojo anyway.
He's a jerk.
Yeah, he is. He's lost his mojo.
Who's had to work harder and do more and overcome and achieves the second highest office in the land and is putting forward concrete proposals to directly address the things that are vital in our neighborhoods and our communities, from housing to making sure that our mothers and our fathers and our grandparents can afford medicine, and making sure that we are dealing with prices that are too high and rents that are too high, and are committed to making sure that we maintain the Affordable Care Act. So everybody's got.
Let me just, before we go to the end of this bullshit, Obama bullshit, truth, lies, political bullshit, let me make something perfectly clear to you. I've never met anybody who is the lowest on the income. And I'm not saying you want to be the lowest on the income, but I've never seen anybody who's on the lowest level of income struggle to get medicine. In fact, it's quite the contrary. Okay.
Yeah. They can get their medicine,
Yes, most people who are on the lowest income level, which I wish they weren't. I wish we could get them up into the middle class. But they have governmental assistance, okay? And some people don't even pay a copay. Some people don't even pay a copay for their medicine, where the guy in the middle class, the girl in the middle class, they may have a 20, 30, 40, 50, some $60 copays. Okay.
Yeah, per med. Yeah.
So don't be fooled when they sit there and say, "Oh, poor grandma isn't going to have medicine. We have to get Kamala Harris or Donald Trump in office to give them medicine." Because if they don't have no money, if they're on Medicare or Medicaid, they're being taken care of a lot better than you and I right now.
Yep.
A lot better than a lot of people standing in this room where he's trying to bullshit them. But let's keep going.
And cares about things like education and entrepreneurship in our neighborhoods. And that's on one side. And on the other side, you have someone who has consistently shown disregard, not just for the communities, but for you as a person. And you're thinking about sitting down?
Because there's no
But, you know, because of who.
So what he's trying to do here is he's trying to shame people.
Yeah.
Okay?
Shame the
Mr.
black
Obama, Mr. I'm the best politician ever to hit the presidency. Somehow I now have $190 million. I own 4 mansions, and I'm going to shame you into voting for somebody because A, they're a woman, or B, because they're black.
Yeah.
And
He lives in Martha's Vineyard, and and all
he's
this
far
crap.
from
Okay?
And you're coming up with all kinds of reasons and excuses. I've got a problem with that because part of it makes me think, and I'm speaking to men directly now, part of it makes me think that, well, you just aren't feeling the idea of having a woman as president. And you're coming up with other alternatives and other reasons for that. And I think anybody you are talking to in a barbershop, anybody you are talking to in your house, in your family, at church, who is coming with that kind of attitude, I think you have to ask them, well, how can that be? Because the women in our lives have been getting our backs this entire time. They've been raising us and working and having our backs.
So basically, you heard him, right? He's saying to these men, you don't want to vote for her because she's a woman.
Right. That's exactly
He's not
what
giving
he
them
said.
any credit for having their own brain, their own thoughts, listening to her policies, and then
Yeah.
making a solid decision based
Yeah.
on what they believe is best for their lives. Look, there's never been a presidency where you can look at both candidates and say, wow, they both have a record in the office of president or vice president, right? Because you
Yeah.
got a guy who was president now running for a second time, and you got the lady who's running now who's the vice president currently. So there's a stark decision that you can make between one set of policies and the other. Now, I'm not saying that Donald Trump is going to be the next coming of Christ, by no means, right? And I'm not saying Kamala Harris is the worst thing in the world. I tend to think maybe she is, but I'm not saying that on this podcast based on what we're talking about. My personal belief is I couldn't vote for her. Okay. And if I was sitting in a room with Obama, I'd tell him to go scratch.
Yeah.
Who the hell are you to tell me who to vote for?
Yeah. I agree with that. Yeah. Both those points.
And when we get in trouble and the system's not working for us, they're the ones who are out there marching and protesting. And so now you're thinking about sitting out or even supporting somebody
How dare you?
who has a history of denigrating you because you think that's a sign of strength, because that's what being a man is, putting women down.
So because you're not
That's
going
not
to support
Right.
Kamala Harris, you're putting women down. And
The thing is this,
look, and he
Sean,
goes on
okay.
and on and on. We can listen
Right.
to this thing for another 20 minutes, and I'm
We'll
not
get-
going to waste my time, because the
Right.
more I think about what he's doing, the more I realize and despise politics in this era.
Right.
You
And
send
know,
out a former president to the black community to chastise black people because they may have a different view based on policy, but you try to shame them into saying you need to vote for her, A, because she's a woman, and B, because she's black. And then all of a sudden, she comes out a couple of days later with this all black man policy. This
Right,
is disgusting.
Yeah, so they're playing. Both of them are playing the race card, okay? And he's standing there, and these guys, they're behind him. They're nodding their head. You're basically what he's saying is, black people don't have the smarts or education to make their own decisions. The turnout is low because there's no enthusiasm. Okay.
Well, on top of that, too, listen, black people, again, I don't even know why, I don't even want to say black, white,
Right.
yellow, green,
Same
blue.
thing, yeah.
People, regardless of their
People.
skin color, know what's best for them.
That's true.
You can't
Yes.
say, oh, because you're black, you got to eat grits, and because you're white, you
Right.
got to eat cheeseburgers. How about
Spanish,
this? I'm gonna
Chinese,
eat-
we're all in this
Yeah,
same.
I'm
same
going to eat what I
boat,
like.
For Christ's
I'm
sake.
going to eat whatever I want.
Yeah.
You can't shame me into saying I got to eat a certain thing because I'm a certain color. You ain't going to shame
Mm.
me into who to vote for because I'm a certain color.
Hmm.
And again,
Yeah.
every friend that I have, whether they're black or white, whether they're Asian,
Yeah.
regardless of their race, color, creed,
Right.
anything, they all say
Right.
the same thing to me. These people think we're just stupid.
Yeah.
And we need them to
yeah.
guide us into the voting booth
Right.
to tell us who to vote for.
Yeah.
And it's a
I agree,
shame.
yeah.
And I'm going to
It's
tell you
total
something. One
bullshit.
thing that I was really happy about is people came out and beat the shit out of him over this video. Especially,
Yeah, they
I'll tell
did.
you, it was black women saying, who the hell are you to start picking on black men and tell them who they have to vote for? But Timmy, I guess the moral of the story is this is the kind of elections that we now have in a world that has fallen apart. We are in trouble at every corner of the world. Al Albin said it the other day in a post. Old white men are sending young white kids. Old black men are sending young black kids to war to die.
Yeah.
While they're sitting behind their senator's seat or their Congress seat. And now we just send a bunch of guys and women. I'm not sure, the makeup, but it's soldiers. So there's women, there's men. But we just send them to Israel, right?
Yeah, I can't stop laughing, Sean, because Mark Alano saying, please take him off the screen. He's getting sick.
Yeah, I hear you, Mark. It makes me sick
Yeah.
too. But that's where we are now.
Yeah.
We are in a spot in this country where I don't know how you fix it. Because if Trump wins, half the world's going to hate him. If Kamala wins, half the world's going to hate her.
Yeah.
I've never seen such a division. Okay? All I can pray for, because I have young grandkids that I want to see have a good life and prosper in what's supposed to be the greatest country in the world. And I believe it is. But certainly we are doing things where other countries have to sit back and say, oh my goodness, the United States of America is doing this? What an embarrassment. And all we can hope for is that whoever wins, they dive in, they do the right thing, and they get this country back on track. Timmy, I want to just jump off for a minute and say, hey, look, if you like the show, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. YouTube channel. Say that fast 10 times, Tim. You think it's funny. There goes a blooper. Son of a bitch. Why am I always the guy in the bloopers? Jump over to the YouTube channel. Subscribe. You don't have to pay. You don't have to do nothing. Just subscribe. Put your name in. You'll be notified when the show's up and running. And like the show. Share the show. Help us grow. We'd appreciate it. So I want to jump over a little Cohoes news, if I may.
Sure.
When I was the mayor of the city, we had a terrible tragedy where a young baby died over on Sargent Street.
Right.
And, I never got involved, contrary to what they say, to the police and their investigations and all that. I was notified that a poor baby died and that there was probably going to be some arrest. I didn't know who, I didn't know what, I didn't know why. But it appears that, the baby had some kind of maybe some bruises, and there was just something suspicious. There was an arrest made. And long and behold, at the same time, we had raised the age and bail reform. So this little baby is dead. The parents or parent is arrested. He's bailed out the same day. And of course, he takes off and goes to Mexico. Right. And years have gone by. But he was finally prosecuted. Now, I want to just jump over and see if I can add this screen because I want to bring it up. I think this tells the story a little bit better than I can, but let's just see. Can you see that on the screen?
Yeah, I can. Yep.
All right, here we go.
Two men who were charged with the death of a 6-week-old infant in Cohoes have pleaded guilty.
Anthony Ojeda and Neil Garzone both accepting plea deals today, almost 5 years after the victim, Eli Ojeda, died from physical trauma and drug exposure.
News Today ABC's Zion Dakota has more details now from Albany County Court. It's our top story tonight.
Two men, the first admitting to placing crystal meth in the mouth of a 6-month-old baby, the other admitted to helping the first evade justice. Both held accountable in Albany County Court today. Anthony Ojeda today pleaded guilty to first-degree manslaughter in the death of his baby Eli Ojeda. He faces a maximum of 20 years in prison. Then there was Ojeda's husband, Neil Garzone. Seen here in a previous court appearance, Garzone today pled guilty to hindering prosecution and guilty to endangering the welfare of a child. Prosecutors say Garzone helped his husband with a getaway vehicle and failed to notify police about Eli's death. Garzone faces a maximum of 3 years in prison. Albany County authorities remarked on their victory.
It might have been justice delayed, but at least justice was served.
Ojeda is accused of feeding baby Eli crystal meth, causing the child's 2019 death. Ojeda was originally charged with manslaughter and was released on probation. After his charges were up to murder, Ojeda fled to Mexico with Garzon's help, the pair reaching the U.S. Marshal's top 15 most wanted list. Both extradited back to America.
So the reality here, Timmy, is that we were lucky enough to find these people and
they
bring
were
them to justice.
Right, and they were extradited. You know,
Yeah.
here's what kind of troubles me with this story. It's bad enough they gave a baby crystal meth, but what you got is you got two males involved. How did they get a baby in the first place?
Well,
Did they
you're
adopt
right.
the
I don't
baby?
know if the baby was adopted. I don't know. I don't know the particulars there, and I don't want to pretend that I know them.
Yeah,
Here's what
neither
I do know.
I. But I mean, everything.
piece-
right,
This piece of shit put drugs in his baby and killed him.
and takes off the Mexico.
And then because
After
the
bail
government that
Yep.
we have, because of the lawmakers that we have,
Mhm.
because of the state of this country that we have, all the bad people have to be protected because somehow, there's got to be this, fairness that a guy who's got $1 million in the bank has to have the same type of opportunities as a guy with no money in the bank. And it's bullshit. We should be putting people behind bars based on the crime they commit, not based on the wealth they have. Now, I understand wealthy people will have money to bail themselves out, but maybe the judge can have a decision that says you can be bailed out or you can't be bailed out, or you have to stay in jail for X amount of time. I don't know what laws you have to make it right, but I know the ones that say soon as you go and get arrested, you're out 5 minutes later, and then you jump in a car and you take off to Mexico. And we have to spend the next 5 years and millions of dollars hunting your ass down because you poisoned your baby with drugs is not the policies that's best for this country. And it's that simple. And the people that support it are freaking morons, Timmy.
Yeah. And I'm just dumbfounded how they managed to get a baby in the first place and then give it drugs. It makes
Well, I know how it
where
gave
was
it
the
drugs because
vetting
they were
system
scumbags.
here?
Yeah. I
They
just
didn't get
wanna-
vetted, and then they get out on bail reform.
Well, they probably did get vetted, but Timmy, we live in this world where everybody has to be treated equally, right?
Yeah.
You can have a penis, and because you say you want to be a woman, I have to let you into the ladies' room where little kids are going to the bathroom or changing to go in the swimming pool because we got to be a good guy. We have to be a great country. We have to be fair. Bullshit. There's certain things that just can't be changed. You can't change from a man or a woman. Period. Little
Well,
kids
as
don't
I-
need to be in bathrooms with
Right.
with men because they say they're women. And the same thing with these adoptions. I understand, gay people can make great parents. I believe that 100%. And there's
So do I.
thousands
I
of
do.
kids that need love.
Yeah.
And every gay person isn't some whack job who wants to poison the baby with drugs. Right. So I get
I've
it.
seen many that are
Me too.
same sex that raise
Me too.
children, and they do a great job. Look
And
at
at
that.
this-
Bottom line is, Sean, if you got an apple, you got a banana. Okay,
What does that mean? You got fruit? I don't know what that means.
that means if you're either a man or you're a woman.
You're
Okay?
absolutely right.
But if you
And
got an
that's
apple,
most
you got a banana, you're a man.
Most people in this country recognize that. But
Yeah.
again, we are sheep led
Yeah.
by people that we elect that most of us would never hang out with, never have a beer with, never go to a party with. Some of these people I worked with in government, I used to say, how the hell? I just don't get it. Where's your mind? Is it warped? I mean, how can you? I'm going to say this, and you know it, and everybody knows it because I was all over the newspapers. I passed the first transgender right bill in Albany County ever. The bill was on the docket for 30 years and nobody could get it passed. I became the chairman of the legislature. I had hundreds of meetings with people who were gay, people who were trans, people that wanted to transition, people that were just men dressing up in women's clothes, whatever rocked your boat. I didn't care. What I cared about was this, and this is exactly what I said to these people. Hear me loud and clear. I support the right for you to do what you need to do for yourself. That's in the best interest of yourself, okay? And nobody should be able to fire you or not rent you an apartment or throw you out of the store because you're gay, because you wear a dress, because you want to be a lion. I don't care. But I have limitations, and I'm not going to support you going into the women's locker room. I'm not going to support you playing in women's sports. I made that stuff clear 10 years ago.
Yeah. But, you know, look,
And you know what?
and you know, Sean, look at, once you let the camel's nose into the tent, you get the whole camel. And that's
Well, I'll
kind of
tell you
what's
something.
happened.
The
Okay?
people that I worked with,
Yeah.
understood, because they were truly people not trying to take advantage of some crazy bullshit, right? Some kind of wacky, scam to get into the girls' room, right? These were people, for whatever reason, and I don't know, and I don't confess to know. I don't believe that I know, because I don't.
Yeah.
But for some reason, they had a desire to do certain things and be certain people that their body tells them they weren't. It wasn't I'm not God, and I'm not going to play God. But if I'm going to be the lawmaker, I'm going to say there's limits. And you're right. Because what happens is the limits keep getting pushed more and more. And it's not by the person who's a trans that really just has a desire to be a trans, right? It's pushed by the organizations, okay? It's pushed by the organizations that are running out of arguments. So now they're LGBTQXRT, whatever. They got 42 freaking letters around their names and plus signs and minus signs. You know why? Because that organization is useless unless it keeps pushing the envelope. Their millions that they're making dry up because, you know what? What does a gay man and a gay woman need now? They're allowed to get married. They're allowed to have kids. They're allowed to do everything that I can do. I don't know what I can do that they can't do. Now, I'm not talking about their argument, I'm discriminating. I can't fix that. I'm never going to be able to make somebody who thinks that you're this or you're that because you want to be this or be that. But from a standpoint of just being an everyday person, I don't know what I can't do or they can't do. So once they achieved what many would have said are unachievable goals, they had to expand what they do because they were now useless. There was no need for them, right?
Yeah.
So the LGBT community had everything that they needed, and so they had to go to the Q, to the Y, to the Z, to the minus, to the plus, and that's where the problem lies.
And that's where I said, you get the camel's nose inside the tent, and then you get the rest of the camel because it's not enough. It didn't go far enough. That's why you have women, guys dressing up as women, trying to play women's sports. Okay.
Well, that's
Did
the
you
problem.
know you got a soccer team out there, college soccer team. Okay, and you got 5 other states refuse to play the one team because it's got a transgender male on the team. Okay.
Well, you look at you. Eventually, something has to happen. And I think what has to happen, and Randy Knifka is right, because he worked for me, and we met with the trans community hundreds of times to get that bill passed. But we also I made it very clear. I'm not going to allow you under my bill to do things that as a father, a grandpa, would be hurtful to my kids. So whatever you want to do for yourself, fine. When it crosses the line and now starts affecting my life, now there's a problem.
Yeah.
And that's where we are with this whole country, right? So back to the beginning of this argument, these people took off to Mexico because the government, again, catering to a small minority of people
that won't give up, that aren't satisfied.
Well, here's what happens. When you're in politics and you run for office, you start out with a base of people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that base of people like you. That's how you get elected. There's a good group of people that like you and they're going to go out and vote for you. But over time, you're going to make decisions that may piss some of them off, so they drop off. And then you're going to do things that other people who didn't vote for you like, so they're going to jump in. And I've always said this: what is the first thing that a politician wants to do when they're elected? What's the first
They
thing that
want to
they try
stay
to
in
do?
office, of course.
Yeah,
Stay
they
in
figure
office.
out how to get reelected, right?
Yeah.
So now what they're trying to do is say, I need to have my pool of people bigger. So next thing you know, they're crossing into these issues because you know my strong base ain't going to leave me, but I can pick up this base over here that believes that transgender can play in
Yeah.
women's sports. And I'm not going to lose these people because they like me. And it's
Yeah.
a constant chess game about who do I get into my pool to keep me elected. That's all they care about. They don't care about you. They don't care about me. They don't care about Joanne or Kathleen or Randy or anybody else. They don't care about Timmy. They bullshit you during election time. I always said, you know how you know when it's election year? These bastards cross the street to shake your hand. Okay.
Yeah,
Outside
yeah.
of that, they walk by, you don't even look at you.
Yeah.
And so that's where
true.
we lie. And that's where we are today as a country. We are so freaking divided that I don't know how we put ourselves back together. And I don't know if anybody is ever going to be able to do that in the short term. And, you know, I hope I'm wrong. I'm wrong more than I'm right, probably. But hey, let's jump over to your favorite spot, Timmy, which is, let me see if I can get there. You know, our hot news, submit your tips. Cahoe's new now. What's new about Cahoe's?
Well,
so jump on in.
Well, here's what we go. Okay, for those who remember, a few years ago, okay, Steve Napier with his CLDC there gang, okay, they decided to build 10 holiday huts, okay, that looked like shit.
Shit shacks.
Okay, shit shacks, we all call them, and distribute them all around Rempson Street and, you know, Canal Square, over at the old Silliman's Park, you know. So they had 10 of these things, right? And they charged people $250 to rent one for a month, okay? I think they made, all in all, $750 in rentals. This was a $25,000 program. And what happened is after the thing was over, okay, they took all those holiday huts, they disassembled them all, and they distributed them up the DPW, right? Hit them around the garage on Central Avenue, and then eventually they put tarps over to protect them. Now they moved them all on up to the Reservoir number 2, which is that little alleyway across from Holy Trinity Church. Okay, and they stored them in the very back, but they didn't bother to cover them up. So they were in the weather, getting rained on, rotting away, or whatever. And what just happened? Okay, DPW went on up there, cleaned them all on out, threw them in the back of the garbage trucks, crushed them all on up. 25 grand project, and all of those 10 huts just shit canned, used for 3 weeks. This is Cahoe's government. And where was Napier? Okay, he's the economic development, okay, and he's done no economic development in the city of Cahoe.
Let's just talk about those shit shacks for a minute, right?
Yeah, it's insane.
So if you went downtown, you found these ugly brown shit shacks leaning to the side. The doors didn't shut. They were just, you know, they were built. I'm sorry, whoever built them. I guess you probably had to use the tools.
I know who built them, but I'm not saying.
They were shitty shacks altogether, painted with the ugliest color.
Brown.
And next thing you know, I'm going to I'm going to a show at the music hall. Yeah. And I'm walking down the street. I'm like, what are all these ugly things going on here? And they're all closed. There's nobody in them, right?
Right.
Until you got down to Canal Square. And then Canal Square, there was 2 dudes standing out in front of there. So I crossed the street, and they're selling like candles and stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And the guy said to me, "Yeah, this was a great idea. We spent like $750 for you know, the season to stand."
And they got no marketing. Nobody was there.
I said, "How many people came by?" He goes, "About 3." I go, "How many times did the city come over to talk to you to help you?" He goes, "I don't even know who we rented them from because nobody showed up. Nobody cares. Nobody answers our calls." So that was quite the economic development.
Yeah, so not only that, but then they won't even take responsibility for last year's debacle with the bands playing up there on Canal Square, where they're lucky if they got 6 people shopping. These bands are on up there. You know, it might be two or three piece people playing guitar, whatever, holiday stuff. Okay, but Here they're on up there freezing their asses off on the stage, and you got 2 or 3 people standing there watching them.
Well, if you
Okay.
remember last year, we had a picture where
Yeah.
there was Steve Napier, aka Fat Ass, who put this thing together, standing next to the garbage can, tipped over with the garbage all over the ground.
all
remember?
over the sidewalk. Yes, and I still have that photo.
And he never picked it up or picked the can up to bring and put the
called
garbage
anybody.
away. And there was
Yeah.
3 people.
Yeah,
What a shame. What
it
a sad-
was.
Was it the LDC or the IDA? Who paid for that?
The LDC, CLDC, Cohoes
So
Local
if Randy
Development
Kniff is still
Corporation.
listening, I asked him to come on the show because he's still been following the IDA and the LDC.
Yeah.
And he kind of talked to me about some stuff going on downtown with the fire site that I think is
Yeah.
worthy of hearing. So if Randy, if you're still out there watching, you want to send me a text so we can get you on next week so we could talk about the LDC,
Yeah.
the fire site, and the $10 million because again, it's just another debacle of people running things that I don't know if they really have the experience. And I'd also like to ask Pete Frangi to come on because he's the head of the IDA, I believe, and love to hear his side of the story as well. So what else, Timmy?
Okay, look at the other thing that I got going here is two things. Okay, I go on city website because I like to be able to find out what happened in all the different meetings. Okay, there's been no minutes posted that I could read to find out how our government is spending our money, how they're passing resolutions and all from the Common Council. Okay, since July. Okay. No minutes for the meetings of the board of managers, which meets all the time. The same period of time, pretty much all year. And even the new ethics board, they've been assembled since May. No minutes of any of their meetings to date. Okay, that you can see. Now they made one decision. Okay, that they just outright dismissed. I told you about that. Where we can now have our mayor, send out 400 or 500 Christmas cards to anybody he wants. Okay, but like I said, the same thing. One issue was he doing campaign politics in City Hall and during working hours, and he was taking them 4 months, and they still haven't been able to make one phone call. And I know they made the phone call, but to pin it down and get it done, it's just our government is not transparent, or the foot dragging is unbelievable where you can't get results. And if I was in there, I'd have that thing done in less than a week. And then lastly, look at
Let me just hit on that. Let me hit on that point for a minute.
Sure.
I think it's important because what we have in the city of Cohoes is a ghost government. Okay. And what a ghost government means is they have their little meeting where nobody shows up. I don't give a shit if you're talking about a 50% tax increase. You'll get 6 people to show up at these council meetings, right?
Yeah.
I shouldn't say that. I guess if it's something really important, you might
depends on how big it is.
Yeah, you might get a dozen at the most. It isn't like the legislature. When we were talking about the transgender, we had like 700 of them show up. And we stayed there and listened to every single person till 12 o'clock at night from 6 o'clock. These people don't do this. They just bang the gavel, tell you can't speak, and get the hell out. But the ghost government has its meetings, nobody there, nobody to question them. And then they don't post any of the documentation or notes of those meetings. Billy Keeler, King Keeler, okay? He is in charge of making sure that everything in this city is working like a well-oiled machine. Mm-hmm. Meaning when I was the mayor of this city, I bought the program to make sure the minutes were posted.
I saw that program working.
I would give the employee 72 hours from the meeting to the day that everything was posted. 3 days or 7 days before the actual meetings, all of the documentation, the backup information, everything that was available, posted for people to read. We didn't have all of these fancy things like we do with this podcast. So we had a TV put in and we would go to meetings and we would publicize it. Shitty. Yeah. We didn't have the money to go spend $100,000, but we were trying to make sure, even if people didn't like what we were doing, they had a right to hear us and we had an obligation to hear them. You don't have that in the city no more. There is no minutes. Nobody knows what's going on. Nobody, was there anything that was put out that said, oh, hey, guess what?
Right.
We're going to hand out raises mid-year to people that got big raises in the beginning of the year.
Yeah. So
Now,
we
I don't
spent
know.
we spent $8,000 to give 4 people $2,000 each. Nowhere in the minutes. I know who got the raises, but if you recall, okay, it was only a year ago or so, something like that. The firefighters needed $6,500 of turnout gear. Okay, we don't have the money to give them turnout gear. Okay, and it's not entirely this current council fault, but probably 2 of them anyway. But I have to ask myself, how is it we can come up with $8,000, okay, towards the end of this year, but you can't do something from the beginning of the year where the amount of money was less for our firefighters. It's
Let
just,
me make something perfectly clear to you. These people may be entitled to those raises.
yeah, and I don't dispute
Maybe they're
that.
doing such an amazing job and they want to keep them and they give them raises. I'm not opposed to raises. I'm opposed to not doing it in the beginning of the year, hiding like a coward.
Yeah.
You don't have to look like you're handing out enormous raises. And I don't even know how you give a raise in the middle of the year, because the council should have to be the ones that approve that. And then you told me, oh, they did approve it. Which
They did. All 6 members voted for it. All 6.
So there you go. One monkey raises his hand, so doesn't the rest, right?
Right. And it wasn't in the minutes. I had to email the city clerk to ask.
Because I'd be saying, wait a minute. We have all these workers in the city, and they all deserve raises. And if you're going to give it to some, you should give it to all. Now, I don't know. Rumor has it, oh, that wasn't a mid-year raise. It was just part of the raise they got in the beginning of the year. And I say, well, how did you have a raise in the beginning of the year and have a balanced budget if you didn't put the right amount coming out of the right line items so people knows where the money's coming from?
And why'd you wait until September?
Yeah. So I really don't know what the truth is. I will find out.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I'm not opposed to people getting the raise. Don't get me wrong here. I'm not saying they didn't deserve a raise. I'm saying, why didn't you just give it to them in the beginning of the year?
That's what I'm saying.
And if you did, then how come you're transferring money out of other accounts?
Yeah.
Why wasn't it given in that account that you pay them
Should
people
just
out
been
of?
put in a budget and plan ahead.
Right.
Okay.
Unless
Instead
you
of
were
taking it from another account. It wasn't an emergency. Okay.
Yeah. So I have no idea.
Right. And then you didn't give firefighters turnout gear because it's unnecessary. Okay. And,
The question
and
is,
I keep hearing more and more bad things going on, where they're trying to buy the fire department's trying to get a boat, and they're not giving them the funding to get a decent boat that they.
I heard that they're going to get the boat now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
that I heard that some of the money was coming from Brookfield.
Yeah.
But the mayor's a wise ass, right? He can't manage this city. He's a failure. And I mentioned the $1 million ambulance every time because we could have got the same company for free 8 months ago.
Yeah.
And because he wanted to be the big shot and look like he was the Donald Trump master of the art of negotiations.
He killed his
He got $1 million stuck up his nose, and now we're paying $1 million.
We're the only ones doing it too, I believe. We're the only city, I bet, in the Tri-City area doing this, showing out a
the first thing I'd be saying
a
is,
month.
hey, we got stuck doing this for 1 year. We're not doing it again. If you want to take all of our calls and have a contract where you're the first ones and we utilize you, fine. But I'm not paying you $1 million.
Yeah, and I'm
This
telling
guy
you,
has got
Green
the
Island
city.
ain't.
This guy's got the city in financial trouble. We talked about it at the beginning of last month when we did the updates on the budget. But if the people of Cohoes don't recognize that we spend money like drunken sailors, we hand out raises in excess of $20,000 to 3 people, all living in the same neighborhood and all related to the mayor of the city. Okay. The ambulance, the fire department struggling. You got DPW. Half of them guys hate their jobs.
And I just got word that more of them guys are quitting, Sean.
Yeah, it's just a mess. When you give, look at, I got nothing to say, right? They voted me out of office for whatever reason, whatever they wanted to believe, if they believed all the bullshit that was politically motivated against me, whatever the reason, they voted me out. They got what they got. And if it was me in there, I'd be criticizing myself. So I'm not criticizing the guy because I'm not there. Okay. I'm criticizing the guy because I've been there. Yeah. And I can't be fooled. And I'm not no goofball that I don't know what's going on. And I'm watching money being, pissed away at an alarming rate. And we can't even get the true numbers because the way the city runs the budget is you have to wait for the city to have its audit. Yeah. And then it shows all of the reserves and undesignated reserves and all of the items that they don't put in the budget that you can't find out until the end of the year. But we're smart enough to find them out. We'll wait till the audit comes, and then you'll know how much money they pissed away out of the undesignated reserves and how much they put into other bills. But hey, Timmy, listen, it's been a blast, man. It's good to see you. And outside of your battery problem, I think the program's working good.
Yeah, I think my toe, I might have kicked a little box.
You froze a couple times. It was kind of. Yeah, you froze a couple times in your face, right? It scared the shit out of most.
Yeah, you froze too.
I froze when I seen your face.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody, thanks for joining Truth, Lies, and Political Bullshit, and we'll see you next week. Timmy, take care.
Adios. Good night.
Good night.